Hi there, bolt owners. Today we're going to be installing EcoHitch's 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2012 Chevrolet Volt. And this is what our hitch is going to look like when it's installed. It's a 2-inch by 2-inch receiver, so it's going to be great for using bike racks and cargo carriers with it. I do not recommend doing any towing with your Volt, as the owner's manual also recommends that you do not tow with your Volt. One of the nicer features about this hitch is that the actual receiver is removable from the cross tube, leaving no indication that there's even a trailer hitch installed. When you're ready to use it, you simply slide it back in and reinstall the bolt. Make sure you torque it to the specification found in your instructions. The receiver uses a 5/8 inch hitch pin and clip. Now, one doesn't come included with the hitch, but you can pick one up here at eTrailer.com. The safety chain loops are going to be hidden further back up behind the vehicle, and they've got a plate style design with a pretty small opening, so it should accommodate your smaller to medium sized safety chains. Now, you do want to keep in mind that it's not recommended by General Motors to tow with your Volt, but it's perfectly adequate for bike racks and cargo carriers. We'll begin our installation at the back of our vehicle underneath. We're going to need to remove all the small bolts that run around our undershield here. There's a total of 8 of them. We're going to use a 7mm socket to remove those. On your passenger side, right behind the wheel at the rear, you're going to have 2 bolts. You're going to need a T20 Torx socket to remove these. We can now take our undershield and set it aside. Now we'll remove 2 bolts on our exhaust hanger right next to the tip at the rear of the exhaust. We're going to use a 13mm wrench to remove these 2 bolts. I recommend that you take a piece of wood now and place it between your frame and your exhaust to keep it pushed down. This will just give you some more room to work and make it a little easier. We'll now take the fish wire that comes in the kit. We're going to start on the driver's side above our exhaust. We want to go in the rearmost hole. We want to come out of the larger hole here. We're going to be using our spacers here in just a moment with our fish wire, but you may find that the powder coating on it is pretty thick and it may prevent the bolts from sliding through your spacer. So we'll just take a drill bit and clean those up. You'll probably have to do this for all of your spacers. We can now take the longer bolts that come in the kit, place a lock washer on it, followed by the spacer plates. We'll then thread that onto our fish wire and feed it back up into the frame. You'll probably have to take the spacer, slide it off, feed it in, and then put the bolt in. And this will let you pull it back down here at the back. Then in our large hole, we're going to take our bolt, prepare it with our lock washer and spacer, and we're going to thread it onto our coiled wire. This time we're going to push that up into the frame, followed by the spacer, and then we'll just pull them back down. That's called the reverse fish wire method. Now, depending on your Volt, there's various hardware you're going to use on your passenger side. You'll want to refer to your instructions because it's going to vary depending on if you have weld nuts or not. If you have no weld nuts at all, you'll just repeat the same process that we did on the driver's side on this side. If you do have weld nuts, then you will be using the smaller hardware into the weld nuts. There is, in some cases, an instance where you can have 1 weld nut and you'll have to split the difference and use the weld nut if it's there, and then use similar process that we did on the other side for the hole that doesn't have a weld nut. In our case, we have 2 weld nuts and they're pretty rusted out, so we're going to have to tap them out in order to clean them up. We're going to use some spray lubricant and a bristled brush to clean out the threads. If you still can't thread the bolt in after cleaning it out, you may need to use a tap to clean up the threads. You can pick up brushes like this here at eTrailer.com. Now with the next set of hands, we're going to lift it into position. You want to make sure you go up over your exhaust first. And then you want to be careful that you don't push the bolts that we fish wired in on the driver's side into the frame. On the driver's side, we'll be using the largest flat washers and nuts to secure our hitch to the bolts that we fish wired through. On the passenger side, you'll use the correct hardware for your configuration. For ours, since we're using the 2 weld nuts, we're going to be using the 10mm bolts that come in the kit with lock washers and flat washers placed on them. We can now tighten down our hardware. We're going to use a 17mm socket on the passenger side for the bolts that go into weld nuts. And we'll use a 19mm on the driver's side. Then torque all of your hardware to the specifications found in your instructions. Now that our hitch is on, we'll need to reinstall our exhaust. There's a adapter plate that comes with the kit. We'll use the existing hardware and slide it through the top bolts in the plate, thread that back into on our vehicle side. We'll go ahead and snug those back down. We're going to take the bolt, we're going to place a flat washer on it, get our exhaust back into position. So you have to remove the piece of wood that you may have inserted if you did that. And we'll take our bolt, we're going to slide from the front of the vehicle towards the rear, through the exhaust, through our new plate. On the other side, we'll place a flat washer, lock washer, and then a nut. We're going to do that for both the holes. And then you can tighten your hardware down. We're going to use a 13mm socket and wrench to do so. Then you can torque your hardware to the specifications found in your instructions. Now we'll take the template that comes in the kit. There's a little plus on there. That lines up with the hole where your hitch would be on your undercover, where it would hit it. So we're just going to mark that out. And then we're going to use some tin snips to cut that out. You can then reinstall your undershield. And then just reinstall your hardware. Now, even after you trim your cover, on certain bolts it may not fit, and leaving the cover off is a perfectly fine option. On ours here, we're going to have to leave it off because it's not going to line back up due to our hitch. And that completes our installation of EcoHitch's 2-inch trailer hitch receiver on our 2012 Chevrolet Volt.